Today on TimesCast, Colonel Muammar el-Qaddafi's interior minister flies to Cairo in a possible defection. Coordinated attacks across Iraq raise questions about the country's ability to maintain security. And over the weekend, three main Republican presidential candidates emerge: Michelle Bachmann, Rick Perry, and Mitt Romney.
We have a new arrival here today in Cairo. The Interior Minister of the government of Colonel Muammar el-Qaddafi, Nasser al-Mabrouk Abdullah, arrived in Cairo today with his family. The ambassador was surprised by his visit, and there's no indication whatsoever that he's here on official business. In fact, it looks very much like another high-level defection. His departure comes at a time when the rebels challenging Colonel Qaddafi's 40 years in power are once again on the move. After weeks of apparent stalemate, the rebels from the western mountains inside Libya have moved in and taken control of much of the pivotal town of Zawiya, which is an extraordinarily important town in the geography of Libya. It's right on the doorstep of the capital, about 30 miles from Qaddafi's headquarters. It's also an important oil port and refinery where they get much of the fuel, and they're running out of fuel right now in Tripoli. And it's on the road from the border of Tunisia, so it's the main supply line for Qaddafi in Tripoli. Since the very beginning of the uprising, when all of Libya rose up against Colonel Qaddafi in late February, this is the first time that the rebels have been so close to his stronghold. And it's also the first time in months that we've seen, again, signs of splintering inside the regime, in this case, the defection of the interior minister. For many rebels, it certainly raised hopes that they may actually be closer than ever before to toppling Colonel Qaddafi.
Monday is the most violent day in Iraq this year, as insurgents launch attacks across the country, killing 68 people and wounding over 300.
The attacks came in all parts of the country and appeared to be targeted at Iraqi security forces, not a particular sect like the Sunnis or the Shias. On a typical day, there's usually 14 attacks across all of Iraq, but today there were nearly 40, which is in a remarkable jump considering the fact that violence had been declining here for the past few months. One of the more interesting things I came across today were statements from a member of parliament who criticized the Iraqi government, which has claimed for months that they have the capability to protect their internal security. The member of parliament said that the Iraqi security forces lacked the intelligence capabilities to stop any types of attacks, and that the insurgents continue to operate on their own without any fear of the security forces. The biggest question for the Iraqi government is whether to ask the United States to keep some of their troops here after the end of the year. The violence today will certainly give the United States a little leverage with the Iraqis when they sit down at the negotiating tables. The United States can point to today as an example of how the Iraqi security forces still need the United States to provide them with intelligence and help with counterterrorism missions.
And Rick Perry changes the dynamic in the Republican presidential race.
Governor, how's your reception been here?
It's been awesome. It's great, man. These people.
Say hi to them.
It's all friendly. You'd think you was in Texas if you didn't know better.
We're here in Waterloo, Iowa, where Governor Rick Perry of Texas has started the first trip of his presidential campaign, a 3-day swing through Iowa.
You have children? You have two.
I've got two. They're actually here. They're sitting right behind this gaggle of reporters right there.
3 people came to Waterloo, Iowa today: Governor Rick Perry of Texas, Rick Santorum of Pennsylvania, and Michelle Bachmann, who's from Waterloo. But the focus was on Rick Perry and Michelle Bachmann, the newest rivals in what is expected to be a heated battle for Iowa.
Sometimes it kind of takes me a while to get into something like this presidential race, but let me tell you, when I'm in all the way.
This is my copy of the Waterloo Courier today. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did.
What had been anticipated was the two of them in the same room together, providing the first glimpse of an interaction between them, but it never took place. Mr. Perry gave his speech. Ms. Bachmann hadn't even arrived yet. When he finished, he went back to his table and watched very politely as Ms. Bachmann came in, gave her speech, never once acknowledging that he was sitting at the table just a few feet away. When she finished her speech, Mr. Perry, the governor, slipped out a side entrance as she was signing T-shirts and other memorabilia memorabilia for the crowd.
And we welcome Governor Perry to the race. So, not yet.
This was, in essence, kind of the kickoff. You had the straw poll on Saturday, and then this kicks off, really starts what is expected to be a real intense battle between both of them for Iowa, and especially for the evangelical and social conservatives of Iowa that have been so much the mainstay of Michelle Bachmann's support, but that people think Rick Perry might have a chance of getting as well.
He's going to be a strong campaigner. He's going to be a strong voice in the campaign. I think he's going to have a lot to say, and he may have a big impact.
What this weekend has done is now set up a new dynamic between three candidates, Michelle Bachmann, Rick Perry, and Mitt Romney. Each of these candidates now have serious challenges ahead of them.